And all join palms and repeat after me. I take refuge in the Buddha.
I take refuge in the Buddha.
I take refuge in the Dharma.
I take refuge in the Dharma.
I take refuge in the Sangha.
I take refuge in the Sangha.
Keeping the palms joined. Put the palms down. All right, good morning, everybody. Nice to see you all. Thank you for showing up. I just kind of laughed to myself. Anyone here for the first time? Just checking. All right, cool. Welcome for the first time. I kind of just laughed to myself as I was doing my offering, which I often do. I'm just facing that way, so you don't really see it. But something funny, random usually pops into my head. I try to have as many of those things a day as possible. It keeps everything, somewhat sane and stable. But were any of you here? My guess is maybe a couple of you, but February 14th, 2017. So 9 years ago, were any of you here for the first ever meditation that we had at this Dharma Bum Temple? No, yeah. So I wasn't sure if I was going to tell this story or not today, but I just laughed. So I'll tell at least this piece of it. I don't know, maybe I'll tell more of it later. But in brief, before we do meditation, we started downtown. We were downtown end of 2006 for 10 years. And then we had this opportunity. I'm not going to tell this whole story now, but we had the opportunity to purchase this building, which they would have torn down and turned into condos. This was built in 1927, and the church that was here, the Swedenborgian congregation, beautiful church, beautiful people. They never registered historic. So 2016, they put it on the market. Developers were going to buy it, tear it down, turn it into condos. That's the simple short story for this moment. And so we went through the whole process. Again, this is the longer story, which I won't tell now, of trying to acquire it. And obviously we did because, we're here. But it was a really crazy thing for those of you who know anything about real estate, being an escrow, trying to get a place. Like, you don't own anything, right? You're just like trying to get something. So here we are. And, we were pushing to try to acquire this. And our initial closing date was just by chance, February 14th, 2017. And so we all thought, oh, how cool. We don't celebrate stuff around here. Like 365 days a year, everybody suffers. So we just kind of go with that approach. So you don't get big holidays and celebrations and yay, it's this day and yay, it's that day. We just go, right? We just do stuff every single day because people are struggling every single day, some days more than others. And on those big holiday type days tend to be even worse days for many people. So we're like, I remember when somebody wanted to put like orange stuff around Halloween time outside. And I'm like, no, because then somebody's going to complain we're not doing this. Like, it's just a day. Every day here is just a day. But it just so happened February 14th, 2017 was going to be our closing date for this property. And, for any of you who know anything about buying properties and escrow, like stuff doesn't always work out how it should. And, but we had the key. Mainly we had the key because I was showing the property every single day for like 100 days. And the realtor got tired of meeting me here. So he just said, here's the key. And so we had this whole Valentine's Day, welcome celebration set up at this place. But there was only one problem. What's the problem? We don't own it. This is just a church for sale. And I had the what? The key. So do you think we canceled our opening meditation? No. So I just shared this morning, social media, but so we all met. We had a beautiful loving kindness meditation that night. I think that's what it was. Honestly, I don't even remember. But we had like 100 something people here, February 14, 2017. In essence, we were all just trespassing, right? That's really what it comes down to. I opened the door, everybody came in. We had this beautiful meditation, an incredible community event, and then we left, and that was all. But I laughed because the whole process of like, how does that even happen? You know, like it just shouldn't. And I still remember the first day. I keep saying this, but someday I'll tell the whole story. I still remember the first day I got the key from the realtor. And I just remember thinking like, dude, you're never getting this key back, like ever. So it was a really beautiful night. Like I said, we packed this place. The whole thing was full. There's a big, huge group photo we always take at things like that. And it was really a special time. And then we ended up, that was February 14th. It wasn't until April 15th that we actually closed. And, you know, we are now here officially, legally. We're no longer trespassing, in case you're concerned about that. So, but anytime I think about kind of those anniversary type dates of things that have gone on here over the last really 19 years, it's really, to me, just a credit to the people that have always been through these doors and how much the community, all of you and every person, you know, past, present, and future, has really taken care of and loved this space. And so often there's, you know, couple of us people point to and say like, oh, this, you know, you do this, you do that. But really it's the 100+ volunteers and it's every single person who walks through these doors that make this place so incredible. You know, last thing I'll say is if you've never seen the TED Talk about what creates a movement, check it out. It's some crazy dude dancing. It's just a phone. It's all right. I hope it didn't break. It's some crazy dude dancing, on a hill in like San Francisco, I think. And everybody thinks that, like, you've seen it. Everyone thinks the crazy dude is like the one who started the movement. But no, if nobody follows the crazy dude dancing, then it's just some crazy dude dancing. It's actually that second person that joins the crazy dude dancing. Then it makes it okay. It makes it acceptable. It makes it all right. And then everybody else, all the rest of the crazy people start following and dancing, and then you have movement. So thank you to all you crazy people who've just been dancing in this place in some way for the last 19 years. So, all right. So with that, we'll start with the meditation practice. A couple things I'll tell you before we begin. Nothing's going to happen to you. You're not going to float away. You're not going to have any mystical, magical experiences. The mind that races all day long is not going to shut off. Don't judge your practice. Don't ask yourself if you're doing it right or wrong. You're just going to sit, you're going to breathe. Your mind will continue to race. It'll wander. It'll jump. You won't empty it. It won't think nothing. I'll say things periodically to remind you that you're lost in thought and bring you back to present moment. Posture, you just want to be comfortable. If you're on a cushion, often it helps sliding to the front third, pushing the stomach forward, allows the back to straighten. If you're on a bench or chair, however you're seated, just trying to relax the shoulders if comfortable. Resting the hands gently. I'll guide us as we begin, and we'll settle into a little bit of silence. And to those who are joining virtually, welcome. Thank you for showing up. And starting with the eyes closed, if comfortable, or slightly open. Mouth is open or closed. We'll start with taking 3 deep breaths slowly. And eventually, settle into a natural rhythm of the breath. Noticing the mind as it wanders, jumping from thought to thought. We'll start with gently guiding the attention, focus to the stomach or chest. Breathing in, feel them rise. Breathing out, they fall. Simply continue this practice, observing sensation of breath. Expecting nothing but to sit and breathe. And as the mind wanders, lost in thought, recognize it, release that thought, and return attention, focus to the breath. Where's your mind? Lost in thought? Return to breath. Letting go of expectations. Letting go of judgments from your practice. Just sitting, breathing. And with the body still, rested, and the speech quiet, aware of all sounds, and the mind learning to settle, know what it's like to just sit and breathe. Knowing with each breath, there's nothing else to do. Nowhere else to go. And no one else to be. Everything beautiful, exactly as it is. Sitting, breathing. And once again, taking 3 deep breaths, slowly. And as you slowly open the eyes, slowly beginning to move, and most important, with the practice of meditation, is to recognize how you feel now, immediately after. Compare this to how you typically feel throughout your day. Recognize the difference, if there is one. Ask yourselves how you'd prefer to feel every day for the rest of your life. And realize however you feel now, if it's quiet, calm, and still, or a busy mind, racing mind, whatever you're sitting with at this moment, it's not from anything I said. It's not from how you sit and hold the hands or cross the legs. It's not from the sounds around us or anything else for that matter. It's everything to do with your own mind and your own mind's reaction to an external situation. This is what the Buddha called pratitya samuppada, means dependent origination. This is the basis of the Buddha's awakening. The word Buddha simply means awakened. He was a human being, no different than any one of us, who began to understand why he suffered, why he got angry, sad, depressed, stressed, anxious. He began to understand the causal relationship of all phenomena. What that means very simply for all of us, regardless of where you come from or what you believe in or where you think you're going, your whole life is filled with things that happen. You react. More stuff happens and more reactions. That's it. This practice is simply learning what it's like to respond to something quietly, peacefully, still. Because for most of us, the way you responded to the last 20 minutes is quite different from how you respond to every other 20-minute period of your day. And so all we're working on is closing the gap to where the way you feel now is closer to how you feel always. Just as driven, motivated, productive, successful, whatever that means to you in your respective lives. But with a mind that's steady, clear, focused, distracted by nothing, disturbed by no one. This is not an easy practice. It's not necessarily fun. It's not an escape, as often people think it is. It is direct perception into present moment. And present moment is filled with conflict, chaos, difficulties, challenges. That's what we get every day. This practice is learning to be with life as it arises and responding to life as it arises, but from a place of loving kindness and compassion, not from a place of hatred and anger. This practice is not the escape. It is learning to be with life as it occurs. Meditation is free. Buddhist practice is free. It's just sitting, breathing, becoming aware of what you think, what you say, and what you do in each moment. And that's it. This practice is, to me, has never been any more complicated than that. That's hard enough. To simply become aware of what you think, what you say, and what you do, and look at the intention and motivation behind every action. That's the practice. We spend so much time trying to change, fix, control, manipulate everything outside of us, hoping they do this, hoping they do that, wishing they would do this, wishing they would do that. And I'm not suggesting that the actions of others are not important, nor that we should ignore them. But when we engage with them, how do we engage? And that's why this practice is looking at your thoughts, your words, and your actions, and what you bring into each situation. And it's not for everybody, because much of our lives, it's been easier possibly to just point fingers and blame everybody else for everything that's wrong. And again, it doesn't mean there aren't horrific things happening, but the question is, where's your mind, where's your heart, and how are you doing? That's what this practice is. So with that, I'll pause. For me, really just prefer to respond to questions, meditation, Buddhist practice, anything you're sitting with. To those joining virtually, again, welcome. Feel free to say hello. There's a chat box somewhere on your screen. If you have any questions, put them there. I'll do my best to respond. And we'll use the rest of our brief time this morning for questions. Yeah.
I was online last weekend, and we had another loss in the family. And when you shared what I already knew about the born, we live, sick, and go. Wow. I had one of those moments where I was like, I'm okay with all of this. You know, I can grieve. How I should grieve. Or how I grieve. So it was just, I was so grateful.
Yeah.
For having that opportunity to be here via YouTube.
Yeah. Yeah.
And grab that message.
One of our millions of followers via YouTube, yeah, that message of, birth, aging, sickness, and death, that especially if you're new to Buddhism, it sounds so direct and so harsh, but it's just reality. We're born, we will age, we will get sick, and we will pass. I think the sooner that we kind of embrace that and see it as our journey, then it creates opportunities to recognize that's the direction we're all headed in. So if we are headed there, then what is the reason to make ourselves miserable over so many meaningless things? And that is not to say there are not horrific things happening in the world, and there are very important things happening that we should not ignore. But much of our day, I find, for many people, is not miserable because of the heavy traumatic things going on in their lives or in the world. It's, the little things that trigger us. So the deeper we become aware of how fragile and how quick this life that we have really is, hopefully it motivates us and inspires us deeply to practice loving kindness and compassion every day. Yeah, but it's hard. Yeah. Thanks, Andy. Yeah.
Okay. I did the exercise you suggested last week.
Yeah.
And the two things I came up
Which one did I tell you?
about what the fruit I didn't like for 7 days.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I got very delicious apples, because they're kind of normally don't buy because they tend to not be.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I told you to buy food you don't like.
Yeah.
Okay. I tell people lots of shit and I forget half of it. So I knew I told you something. I just honestly had no idea what it was, but now I remember.
And two things came up for me. One was like, okay, because they were not crispy enough, so they started growing up that I was not enough, so I rejected myself because I was not enough, either too much or not enough to be acceptable. So
Yeah.
I rejected that. And second was about having preferences. Because having preference means I'm comparing to something else, which means I'm in my head comparing, I'm not really experiencing what's in front of me. And when I started doing that, it was okay. It's just an apple, and that's how it is. That kind of apple. I don't have to compare to a different kind of apple because it's not. It's this one.
Yeah.
So it was a very good.
That's great.
It's a very good experience. Yeah.
Thank you for the report, for sharing. For those who are maybe new or weren't here last week, who've never heard me, share these practices, and I got a bunch of them that I make up, but in brief, without telling the whole thing again, is that the idea was around, and again, for those who are new, it's not that there's anything wrong with eating the apples that you want. There's nothing wrong with having preferences, but the question that led to this was really around how we compare people and places and things all the time, and how our craving and desires, the Buddha taught, leads to suffering. It's not so much that craving or desire in and of itself is bad or wrong. It's that we're constantly craving people, places, things in our lives. And when we get there, it's not enough. We don't like it. We want to change it. So this idea of asking, how do we deal with like real important attachments that we have to things? And so I always come back with simple things like just try to eat food that maybe is different from what you would normally buy. And that's what would lead to something like this, that we go to the shop, grocery store, if we do, or however we shop, and, we have our thing that we get every time. And it's not that switching that is bad or wrong, or keeping the same routine is bad or wrong, but it goes to show, like, I'm used to eating green apples, and now I have a red one. Oh my God. Like, for some people, that is really, really difficult. And so to me, as a form of practice and just simple example to show us, when people ask questions about how do I deal with death and loss and trauma and big important things, yet we can't even function eating an apple of a different color. And yet people want to know how to get over loss of loved ones. So these are opportunities to just show us how attached we are to certain things. If nothing else, how attached we are to our patterns of just thinking this is the way it should be. And when we go opposite or different or away from how we think it should be, it kind of rattles our system. And the practice of being present is to just, as you said, the second part, is to just experience eating the apple without comparing it to another apple. And if you can do that in your life, that's life-changing. Yeah.
I don't know. I'm thinking, what is the deeper root of that?
What is the what?
The deeper root
Yeah.
of that action. And I don't know, but I think we think that we are the owner of the truth, and there is just one truth, which is mine, of course.
Finally, I met the person who has the truth.
Right?
Yeah. Yeah. Welcome.
And that's what I think, that we compare and judge everything based on that truth that I have inside of me. And I don't recognize that everyone has the same right to have their own truth.
Mm-hmm.
And it could be different.
Yeah.
And that's what I think is the problem.
Yeah. Well, what's your name?
Bon.
I wanted to put a name to the person who has the truth. And so are you new?
My friends call me Bon.
Okay. I'll stick with Bon. Yeah. Are you new to Buddhism? No. Okay. So let me then, just for everyone, let me kind of just add on to that as well. This idea of truth in Buddhism, especially for those who might be new, very often in the Western culture, we're used to this idea of like truth spoken by so-and-so, right? And ultimately in Buddhist teachings, there isn't really truth. There's just reality. It's called Tathagata, one of the names of the Buddhist suchness, things as they are. And so, as you said, our perception of reality becomes our truth and what we live by. But what we live by and what we perceive is not actual truth. Truth is just suchness, things as they are. So it's not about truth as truth versus, right, wrong, good, bad, this versus that. It's just what is happening. It's like a mirror reflecting.
And it changes.
Yeah, what changes?
That's the thing that sometimes we cannot accept. We said, no, but 20 years ago, yeah, but this is a different reality.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's a different thing. So we have to be able to adapt.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Thank you. What else? Other questions?
This is like kind of silly, I think, but talking about comparing and having different perceptions of like the green apple versus the red apple.
Mhm.
And so I just think about how my boyfriend eats change, and so we'll go to a restaurant, the same one, and he'll get the same meal every time. I'll always get a different meal. So what does it mean that I'm like always searching for something different? I'm always searching for like the next best thing, or I'm always like just after a new experience. So I don't know, like, am I comparing? No, but I'm like always in that like searching. Like, so if you're always changing your environment all of the time, what are you seeking? Almost.
Yeah, I'm definitely.
I guess it's not like really a question.
Yeah. It's something to. Well, I'm glad you see it's not as a question, because I'm definitely not answering that for you.
Yeah.
You can work that out in all your other circles of friends and therapy and whatever else we do, to get healthy. But what I will say is, again, just kind of that same idea of the Buddha taught very clearly that we experience dukkha, suffering, discomfort, angst, dissatisfaction because of the second noble truth, which is, I always say, greed, anger, and ignorance, but it's craving, desire, wanting things to be different from how they are. And so really the question which you're bringing up is a question for you to explore, which is, why am I always wanting things different? And this isn't about, as you said, your boyfriend ordering the same thing every time being right or wrong, nor is it right or wrong that you're always seeking different. It's really to explore, why? And that's often when we take it out of simple things like food, right? Not simple things, but just everyday common things like food. We then begin to see like, wow, I do that with everything. I know you do. Yeah, that's kind of that's the reality. And so the question is like, wow, what am I running from? What am I afraid of? What is wrong with how things are? Am I ordering something different every time just to piss him off because he's ordering the same thing every single time? I just throw that out there as a possibility. I'm making no claims. I'm just guessing at stuff. But so it's really opportunities for all of us to ask ourselves in our lives. We create these habitual patterns and behaviors. And in this practice, what is actually going on? And so for me, kind of Zen practice, monastery life, you have a schedule in place, you follow it, you go beyond the thoughts, you just do. Food's in front of you, you eat. You have to go to the bathroom, you go to the bathroom. You have time to work, you work. You need to sleep, you sleep. It's not thinking and questioning every single little decision. I mean, I know for me, that drove me miserable my entire majority of my life. Spending an hour, should I wear this shirt or that shirt? Should I put on these shoes or those shoes? Well, I need to make sure that these socks match this belt, which matches this tie, because some magazine says this is what I'm supposed to wear. This is how we live our lives. And it's not about these things being bad or wrong, or that you're some bad Buddhist because you follow these things. It's about understanding that we're just so stuck. And can we even shatter our way of seeing things? And we just wear socks to wear socks, or whatever it might be. So yeah, really good questions to always ponder why Why do I do this? There's a question here, Cinda. Jeff, what is the difference between Buddhism and Taoism? For me, it's easy because I've never studied Taoism. So I really can't give you much of a comparison. I always have a way out of any comparative religious stuff because I've never studied any religion. And so I can't really compare stuff. Actually, years ago, I had to give a talk with a reverend down the street. We were doing a talk at the church on Thich Nhat Hanh's Living Buddha, Living Christ. And it was a book about kind of comparing Christianity to Buddhism. I was like, oh man, I got to read this book because I had to give it, share a talk on it. But what I can say for some references, as Buddhism spread and went into China, you had Taoism, you had Confucianism, you had Shinto religion practice. And so Buddhism kind of meshed with Taoism, Confucianism, Shintoism. And so there are some similarities. But like I said, I've never studied Taoism, the way enough to really comment on it. But I think the little bit that I know about Taoism, it's also a really beautiful practice of just allowing things to be and observing. But again, asterisks always, it doesn't mean you allow horrific, horrible things to occur and just sit on the sidelines and watch. It's not part of the practice. So, yeah.
How do you not judge the people that sit on the sidelines and just watch?
The question was, how do you not judge the people?
How do I not judge and how do I evolve? Because I feel like I'm not evolving because I am judging people.
Yeah.
Based on their inaction or their publicity or their
Yeah. Or what was the last part?
Or their support.
Their support. Yeah. So the question was, how do you not judge the people that you are seeing that are sitting on the sidelines, in action? First and foremost, I think that even though I know I'm kind of contradicting what I just said, which doesn't really answer or respond to your question yet, but inaction, to me, there really isn't inaction, right? Inaction, lack of action is still an action. People are taking an action to do, if someone takes an action to do nothing, that is their action, right? So the word karma literally means action. So we generate karma, body, speech, mind, what we think, what we say, what we do. So, but to your point, how do you not judge people who are not doing, in essence, what you what? Want them to do? That's the reality. Anyone in this room have things that you want people to do? How's that working for you? Not so well. Have they all started to do what you want them to do? No. Are they ever going to? No. Now, here's the question. This is not an easy one. I don't have an answer to this, but just as always, more things to think about. Ask yourself, have people ever wanted you to do something? No, never. Yeah. And have you absolutely never done or not done what they wanted you to do? And sometimes just out of spite, just because they want you to do it? I'm not assuming anything. I just, lots of years of misery and pain and suffering, which, comes from all those places of people saying, hey, you should do this, that's healthy, it's good for you. And me just saying, yeah, I don't want to do it. Why? I don't know, because you told me to. Again, I'm sure none of you have ever been in that situation, right? As a parent to a child or anything like that. But for me, the practice is, to your question again, how do you deal with these situations? Well, first and foremost, I know that people have wanted me to do things my whole life. Much of the times I didn't do it. Did I want them angry at me because I didn't do it? Did that help the situation? When you are miserable and you are in pain and you are suffering, we've all been there. If people are treating you poorly and judging you and critiquing you and hating you and treating you like shit, does that help you? No. Does that help you actually change and do something that might potentially be good for you? No, not at all. So this practice of how do we practice loving kindness and compassion towards others, which is ultimately what this is about. How do we practice loving kindness and compassion towards others that we think are causing tremendous pain and suffering, or allowing things to occur that are causing tremendous pain and suffering? And it truly is understanding that sending love and compassion and kindness towards others we disagree with doesn't mean we are saying what they're doing is okay. It doesn't mean we are saying what they're doing is right. It doesn't mean we are saying what they're doing is healthy or beneficial or good. It is not dismissing what they are doing. It is saying that when people act from a place of hatred and anger, what they need is not more hatred and anger. And if you're not sure about that, ask yourself, when you were filled with hatred and anger about something, and all people did was bring hatred and anger towards you, did it actually change anything? Or did it just piss you off and make you more angry? Yet if somebody actually brings love and kindness and compassion to you when you're feeling hatred and anger, maybe you'll soften a little bit. Maybe you'll change a little bit. Maybe you'll open up to listen. So for me, that just begins to scratch the surface of understanding, even going back to the earlier comments about, reality. Our perception of a situation is just our perception. And everybody is doing what they think is best and right. It doesn't mean you agree with it. It doesn't mean it's good. It doesn't mean it's healthy. It doesn't mean it's safe. But people are doing what they actually think is right. Just because you disagree with them doesn't change the fact that they're still doing it because they think that that's right. No matter how much it doesn't make any logical sense to your heart and mind. A lot of things don't. But to them it does. So, yeah. What else? Yeah.
I wonder if you talk about Paramitas Samupata. I've asked the question before. I don't know if I said it right.
You did.
I loved your explanation before, and I'm a slow learner, so I'd love to hear
Yeah.
it again.
So Paramitas Samupata, right, according to the way this guy says it, which doesn't make it right. But dependent origination, I always say after meditation, Paramitas Samupata, dependent origination, the basis of the Buddha's awakening. So dependent origination is really understanding that everything is conditioned upon something else for its existence. Everything is conditioned upon something else for its existence. This really ties into the emptiness teachings in Buddhism, which doesn't mean things don't exist. It doesn't mean things aren't there. It just means things exist completely differently from how you perceive it to be, right? So an example, that pew you're sitting on, right? Any idea who Emanuel Swedenborg is? Other than the times I've mentioned him? Yeah, right. All right. No idea who he is, right? Dude lived in the 1700s, something, right? Without Emanuel Swedenborg being born, 300 years ago or whatever, you wouldn't be sitting on that pew right now. Do you know why? It wouldn't have been built. The church wouldn't have been built. Unless somebody just randomly 200 years ago threw a pew in the middle of the dirt, right? Emanuel Swedenborg, his life created the Swedenborgian congregation, the church. They came together in the 20s, that community. They built this church. This church was here, and they realized they should probably give seats to the people who come to the church. So they built these really rad 100-year-old pews. And now you're sitting on it. But what do we do to the pews? You don't even clean them. Come on. Actually, you do. I take that back. You do clean them. But we occupy them. We use them as a pew. What do most people do with most things and people and places in their lives? Use them. To what? Our benefit. What works for me? Most of us spend our lives thinking, what's good for me? So the beauty of dependent origination, to me, the lesson behind it is an ultimate opportunity to experience endless gratitude and appreciation for every single thing that has ever happened before us. Because nothing exists independently. Everything is conditioned upon something else for its existence. Now look at any experience in your life. When we go through it, we just think this hurts. I don't like this. How does it impact me? But do we understand all of the people involved, all of the places involved, all of the experiences involved, the pain and suffering that other people have experienced, the trauma and abuse that other people have experienced, whatever they've gone through, and now they interact with us or we interact with them and we experience pain and suffering in that moment without understanding the whole history of their lives. Again, this doesn't excuse things. This doesn't make things right. It's not about that pew being right or wrong or good or bad, or Emanuel Swedenborg being a good person or a bad person. It has nothing to do with that. It has to do with, it's removing emotions from causes and conditions, the law of cause and effect. And for those who are new to Buddhism, Buddhism is not about being emotionless, but in this example, it's about removing good and bad and right and wrong and just saying things happen. You can't have something come from nothing. Everything comes from something. There is no beginning. Thich Nhat Hanh teaches this a lot, but there's no beginning and there is no end. This is looking at pratitya samupata, dependent origination. Endless continuation of everything. You know, and he uses great, beautiful Buddhist teachings of the clouds and the sun and the rain and the water and the earth and this, you know, endless cycle. Everything is contingent upon something else. Do you have anybody in your life that you're really angry at?
Yeah.
Yeah. Have they been through pain and suffering?
Sure.
Try looking at it that way. That maybe their pain and suffering led them to do things potentially that caused you pain and suffering, which doesn't make what they did good or bad or right or wrong, but it's beginning to understand that we can have gratitude and appreciation for everybody's existence and how it's impacted the world or our immediate lives. Yeah. What else? Yeah.
Just a very brief share about how Buddhism actually helped me. I just came out of a prolonged illness that was hellacious. And the only thing that helped me is as I was laying there suffering, I thought, well, not only is this what Buddhism teaches, but at 67, it's about to get a hell of a lot worse. So be grateful you're not there yet.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, it really is. And again, for those who are new, it's not, you know, Buddhism is not miserable. It's just helping us understand that we're going to experience misery in our lives and pain and loss and suffering and sickness in our lives. And to add to that, it teaches us ultimately to have this appreciation for, you know, the health that you have now and the life that you have now, because, you know, it's not always going to, you know, and it can get better. So it can get better and then worse, but it's going to change. It will always change. Everything in our life will change. And this is the Buddhist teachings on impermanence and our ability to embrace change or resist it. And the more we resist change, the more we struggle because we want things to be a certain way forever. And they're just not. We change. Everything changes. And that's not a bad thing. Ever been in a really miserable mood? Then impermanence is wonderful. Because if impermanence didn't exist, you would stay in that miserable mood forever. We don't like impermanence when it takes our wonderful, happy, peaceful, joyful mood and it turns it into a miserable mood. Then we don't like impermanence. So again, we tend to kind of use things how we want. But anyways, what else? We'll do one or two more before we close.
To try to avoid that change is not based on trying not to lose control about things, because we think that we have control about something.
Yeah.
Like if everything's the same way, make us feel, it's anyways an illusion.
Yeah.
Control shit. But anyway, we think that everything's under control.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. All an illusion. Thank you. What else?
It's my first time here. It's not
Welcome.
my first time, thank you, to Buddhism or to meditation, but I had this realization today that just really being quiet, like, calms my nervous system so much. And when my nervous system gets dysregulated, everything irritates me. Today, nothing irritated me. No sound. I'm not too hot, not too cold, no judgment. I had thoughts, but I felt really, really peaceful. So thank you.
Beautiful. Yeah. No, don't ever come back, because then you're going to like hope for that again, you know. No expectations. Great. Yeah. I appreciate you sharing that. And it really is, I think, you know, for those who are maybe new to practice or, you know, have had a practice and been around it, always with meditation and sitting together in any community, there's lots of communities around, but it's a reminder to us how important it is for us to begin, as you said, to get that nervous system under control, to control our emotions, to allow ourselves to stay steady and calm. There's a similar kind of to what you shared, kind of Zen teaching where you have a glass vase, and in the glass vase you have water and you have sand and rocks and pebbles, and you pick it up and you start shaking it, and everything is just a mess. And once you set the vase down, everything settles to the bottom, and there's, assuming you started with clear water, there's the clear water. And so very often we are roaming around, we are that vase that's just constantly shook up, and everything is just muddy. And then we take that muddiness and we interact with people and they have to deal with our mess, you know? So coming back to the meditation practice and allowing ourselves to just sit and be, whether it's at home or wherever you are, really is an opportunity to let everything settle. So then when we get up and we go into the world and we engage in, you know, and we interact with people, we're not just that stirred up mess. We're a little calmer, a little steadier, a little more clear. What's that?
For how long?
Well, that's up to you. I mean, yeah. As I often say, you know, it is a practice, you know, and I'll close with this thought. As soon as you walk out this door, right? I mean, it is, you know, it's San Diego, Saturday, relatively calm and quiet and peaceful in University Heights. But as soon as you get on that 163 freeway or wherever you're going, they don't care that you just finished your meditation. They don't care that you're all calm and quiet and peaceful for like 3 minutes. That world is going 1,000 miles an hour, and you will very quickly get wrapped up in it. And the real response to how long, that is really up to you. It's like anything else that we train, anything else that we condition ourselves for, any other thing that we prepare ourselves for. The more we practice, the easier it is to carry that feeling into our life. So it's not about being good at meditation. It's not about just being here and being still and quiet for this hour we're together. But what about when you go out there? And the more you practice and condition your mind to calm and steady and still, the easier it is to access that when the world out there is pissing you off, because it's not going to stop. So, all right, so I'm going to close on that. Oh yeah, one more, go ahead.
Just real quick, someone once said to me, have a great day unless you have other plans.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. And I think, you know, we can have a good day and still see a lot of the horrific things that are happening in the world and try to interact in the world to make the world a kinder, gentler place without allowing it to destroy us. And that is not easy to do. That is a practice. Kind of going back to the question about, you know, how do we interact with those that we're, you know, judging for kind of sitting on the sidelines, so to speak. And so take care of our own mess, you know, our own heart, our own minds, and then interact as much as possible to try to bring love and kindness into the world. And that's not easy. So, all right, I'm going to close on that. We'll join palms. May any merit gained from this practice be transferred to all beings in all directions. May all beings be at peace. May all be free from suffering. All right, and before y'all head out, Kevin has our announcements for us. Thanks, Kevin.
Hey everyone, I'm today's host. My name is Kevin. We opened the Dharma Bum Temple 18 years ago to introduce Buddhist practice to those who show up. Those who lead are not nuns, monks, gurus, masters, or teachers, and they're not looking for students. They're simply practitioners sharing their interpretation of the practice. Every night we have different classes led by different people from various Buddhist traditions. We have a recovery sangha that meets several times a week for anyone with addiction, and our food redistribution program is every Thursday at 4:30. We have classes and programs every day, and everything we offer here is always free. The full schedule is on our website and also posted in the entryway of a shoe rack. We have a lending library. If you see a book you like, feel free to borrow it, then bring it back whenever you're done with it. And please straighten your seat or cushion before you head out. Thank you for being here. We wish you all well and hope to see you all again.
Thanks, Kevin. Nice to